This student is preparing for a real-life racing event in a spec Miata.
Oh, there's a speed. Matthew Dux has gone around. This is going to be another big one. Huge incident. Fantastic manoeuvre. Absolutely glorious and exactly what we expect from Mazda MX-5 Racing.
This is how I helped him find 3 seconds per lap in just 1 hour, as well as get ready to find speed and, most importantly, consistency in his real-life driving. In this video, I will show you what his technique problem was and how to fix it. This video is heavily edited, so if you want to apply these techniques to your driving, make sure you watch the entire video, because this is one of the most common problems in drivers moving from intermediate to advanced level. Now, here's what's gonna blow your mind. If you take a quick look at his driving, it actually looks perfect. The track usage is perfect, trail braking is there, the throttle application, the lines, it all looks clean and smooth. So how is he 3 seconds slower? Pause this video and let me know in the comments. You can edit your comment at the end of the video with what you actually learned from it. Do this because writing this stuff out really helps you improve. After watching his driving, I will tell him what he needs to do to find those 3 seconds, and then we'll try it on track. At the end of this video, I'll show you his lap after the coaching session ended.
Ooh, too much there.
Okay, good stuff, man. Really tidy. We can polish it by asking a few questions at specific points in time. For example, when you start braking, are you really at the peak deceleration? And the way to answer this question is there any difference between 80% and 90% and 100% braking, even though there is ABS? Is there any benefit in using ABS? Have you tried 100%? And also, not only that, are you using the engine braking to help the car slow down? Because I can see that your engine braking is somewhat inconsistent. Like sometimes you really use it, sometimes you don't. If the downshifting and the braking affects the deceleration, which it most likely does in this car, then you need to always use it exactly the same way to get the more consistent speed every time. That's the first question, right? Are we truly on peak braking? Then if we are using the engine braking to help with the deceleration, that engine braking is also going to make the car more pointy on initial turn in. So that means when you do use the engine braking at first for deceleration, it will also be there to help the car turn in. So you got to be aware, be a little bit more precise with the initial turn in. The second question is under braking, when you're transitioning from braking to turn in. So that's turn 1, that's turn 3, turn 5, Chevy, that's the corner before carousel, and that's Canada, and the last corner. So all these corners are corners where you have to brake before you turn. That means there will be a transition between braking and turning. That transition itself, which is more or less at the turning point, ideally, you should be using the engine braking to help the car rotate. And the question is the turn-in transition imperceptible? I believe it should be imperceptible. It should be so progressive on your steering. You should turn almost nothing, to the point where I can't even tell where your turning point was. Sometimes I see you doing it. Sometimes I see you turning in so slowly initially, and the car is beautifully going in because the engine braking is helping the car rotate. But sometimes I see you kind of flicking the steering, and when you do flick the steering, we get a kind of inconsistent behavior, because if you flick the steering while having engine braking, the car snaps. If you flick the steering without the engine braking, the car understeers. But ideally, you want to make that transition, that initial turn in, imperceptible to really build that rotation. That was the second question. So recap, first question, are we really truly decelerating the car as much as possible on a straight line using the engine braking, using the ABS? Second question, are we doing that imperceptible turn in by being extremely progressive and using the engine braking that was also being used to help decelerate, but also now using it to help rotate the car? The third question is, are we truly rotating the car as much as possible on that fraction of a second before throttle. Like, because when you get back on throttle, you're determining that that's your minimum speed. That from that point, you're going to only gain speed and the car is going to rotate less and less and less. So if the car is going to rotate less and less and less, you got to make sure that before that point, you have reached peak rotation. You are extracting peak rotation from the car. And that the third question, are you extracting peak rotation before throttle, is what I feel we could work the most on your driving. It just feels like there's something missing. Like, I was watching you driving, everything looks perfect, but it's a little bit too perfect, right? There's no corrections. The car is not dancing around, and it's just too perfect. So something's wrong. Generally, when your driving looks too perfect, it's most likely because you're not really on the limit of rotation. Mid corner, obviously, what we're gonna reach, especially on this car, mid corner, when you turn the steering a little bit more, you're gonna extract a little bit more rotation. But then if you go too much, you will get into understeer. And even that understeer, I didn't really feel it. I didn't really notice any kind of understeer mid corner. I noticed some kind of understeer later in the exit. I just feel like you're not steering as much as the car is able to handle mid corner. So again, recap. Peak braking first. Let's try to really use the engine braking to help with that. Second one, because the engine braking is going to be there on turn N, make it extremely imperceptible, extremely progressive. That initial motion of the steering should be so progressive that I cannot tell you where you actually turned in. I cannot notice exactly where you started turning in. And the third thing, that's the most important, before you get back on power, make sure that you add a little bit more steering and just load up more the front tires on that area between 25% and 50% of the corner right before you get back on throttle. So I want to see if you can extract a little bit more rotation. We can also call this, especially when driving the MX-5, overdriving the fronts, which is like just extracting that extra scrub to see if there is a little bit more rotation. And it tends to be good in the tires of this car. Does that make sense for you?
Yeah, that's all, yeah.
Perfect. So let's try driving with that in mind. I know it's 3 things and each of them are kind of like happening at the same time, very close to each other. So for now, let's just drive thinking about mid-corner steering. So let's try to do everything exactly the same, but like before you get back on throttle, on that area between 25 and 50% of the corner, try to add a little bit more steering and just see what happens. Just see if the car understeers more, see if the car actually rotates more. Just let's try that.
Okay. Look for more rotation.
Especially at turn 5, that should be very useful there to try and overdrive the front a little bit. By the way, this might look very easy. You already understood what he's going to do and you know he's going to find 3 seconds. But remember that it's not that easy to just simply do it and find the time. You have to adjust the new technique with everything else that you have been already doing. You have to change your lines a little bit. You might have to brake a little bit later if you realize that you have more grip and so on. So all these little things, we're going to be trying and fixing each problem one after the other during the rest of the coaching session. So make sure you watch this video until the end so you can understand what kind of problems and traps you find along the way of implementing this technique and the whole of your driving style. Okay, that looks better. Same thing here. Now try the same thing, a little bit more steering before throttle at Canada corner. Yeah. Same thing, less corner.
So much.
Yeah, that was due to the downshifting itself. As soon as you went to 3rd gear without the blip, the car kind of like, if you felt the kick, right? So you need to be super aware of that kick. After the kick happens and you're stable, then you reapply the throttle, the steering. Now try the same thing in turn 1, 3. Okay, so what he did there, you turned more a little bit too early. You turned more during the turn in phase. Remember, it's mid-corner. Progressive, and then you turn more here. Boom. That's it. So it's really towards the minimum speed. As your speed goes down, then you can overdrive the front tires.
Okay.
That's why I said like imperceptible turn in. It's so slow at first, and then you start turning more the steering mid-corner.
Yeah.
There you go. You see how much more front there are?
Yeah.
Nice. A progressive initial turn in, and then mid-corner, lots of steering. Good job. Careful, downshift into third, then you turn more. There you go. There you go. Now let's put the lap together. That off track is so annoying.
Yeah. I keep getting these off tracks, but I definitely feel that little bit more rotation that I wasn't getting before.
And it's almost nothing, right? But it was killing me inside.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here, you can hear the engine, like you were downshifting a lot less aggressively than the previous laps.
Yeah.
So in that case, the engine braking was needed to really turn the car. Try to go to third very early to the last corner, but blip the throttle during the downshift. See if it helps.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah.
Just makes the kick, it kind of like cancels out the kick. As soon as you touch the brakes, you can like be ready to downshift to fourth.
Okay.
Same thing here. Yeah. See how the car really wants to turn? The reason you understeered there is that you didn't add the steering before you got back on power. So you just like unloaded the fronts before you used them. So lots of engine braking here, immediately to fourth gear. Very progressive steering at first, and then you turn more before you get back on power. Yeah, that's it. That's the idea. That's it. Yeah, same thing there.
I definitely feel it. Yeah.
Like you missed the apex and it was still like a tenth quicker than your option. Oh! That was gonna be like a good one. Let's see the replay of that. Again, mid-corner. Let me see what happened mid-corner. I think if you look at the motion on the throttle, you will see that before you reach peak steering, you're already applying throttle. Look.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Push it out to gravel.
you just lifted the fronts precisely at the very second you tried to use them.
Yeah.
That's why, like, if you waited like literally a blink of an eye and turned the steering, and then a blink of an eye after you went back on throttle, you wouldn't have gone off. But you added the steering and the throttle at the same time. Like that overdriving motion that I'm talking about is very, very like right before the throttle, but not at the same time. That's why you understeered too much off.
Gotcha.
Nice. Much better. See, even though it was a little bit late, that motion right before I got back on power saved it. Gave you so much more rotation. A little bit of front ABS there. When you started turning in, I think it would work if you release the brakes a little bit more to prevent the ABS on the front. As soon as you trigger the ABS, the fronts just die. They just go straight. And it's exactly the same thing in real life. Tell me, how was that? How did the changes feel?
I definitely feel the rotation bit helps a lot. I knew there was more rotation, but I just didn't know how to tackle, whether that was, beginning of the corner trying to load up the fronts more or just waiting on throttle. So that definitely is what I was looking for.
No, I would say, like I said, your driving looks perfect, right? So it just needed a little bit of spice, like to make sure that you're satisfying those 3 questions. Peak braking, nice transition to turn in, and peak rotation. That's way better. That was like 2 seconds per lap there compared to your first 3 laps. And I'm pretty sure that if you take a break and then come back and do 3 laps, you're gonna go straight to the 38s. Yeah, don't forget that. That's super important. You can apply that in any car. You can apply that in real life. Most likely in real life, it's going to be super useful. It's actually safer to rotate the car well mid-corner like that, to really commit to getting the car to turn mid-corner, because that is the safest place to try to rotate the car, because it's most likely going to tend to understeer, and also because the speeds are lower. But if you fail to rotate the car there, what happens? You tend to go off on the exit and spin, and everything that bad that happens generally comes from you not being committed to getting that rotation done mid-corner. So that's the most important thing. That's why I started with the point 3, with the question 3, right? Because it's the one that gives you the most benefits and makes you at the same time safer and faster.
And it was definitely like beforehand, if I ever was trying to figure out corner, I would always look to corner entry, corner exit, but I never really thought of mid-corner.
The heart of the corner is mid-corner.
Yeah.
And you said you're preparing to race in real life, right?
Yeah, I'll be testing Miata at Road Atlanta. I'm going out in like 2 days, I think. Like, I've gotten down a lot of the topics and stuff, and a lot that I've learned from your checklist and stuff.
I think what we did today is precisely what makes you more consistent, because when you get closer to the limit, you have less options, right? If you have less options, automatically you're going to be more consistent. The most counterintuitive way that people think is, oh, I'm not going to push the car. That is the easiest way to become inconsistent, because if you're not pushing the car, you give yourself way too many options of what to do with the car. So the outcomes are going to be different. But if you're closer and closer to the limit, now you have less options. So you become more consistent, actually. What you did today, for example, of extracting more rotation mid-corner, that is the biggest weapon against inconsistency. Like, it really helps you so much. You're going to see the difference for sure.
And then the other thing was, like, I watched a lot of your videos on the, like, ways to safely get up to the limit, or at least learn the track quickly. I'm gonna work on that. But like, is there anything else for like tips of like how to, new car, new track combo? So I'm sure like if I go real life racing, like the car and track's always gonna feel different every single day. Like, anything to look out for?
Yeah, I actually just launched an online course for real life drivers on my website that is precisely about that. But to resume it to you, to summarize it to you, you learn how to induce understeer mid-corner. At this point, you brake earlier than you know would be eventually the limit, right? You brake earlier, you carry a decent speed into the corner, not too high. You induce understeer mid-corner with the throttle and steering to get the front tires on the limit first, just to get a feel of how much grip you have. And then you start minimizing the understeer and braking slightly later. Minimizing the understeer and braking slightly later until you blend the limits. You see that mid-corner rotation, that mid-corner steering is a central part of finding the limit in a safe way. And I already said it, but I'm gonna say it again. Like, the most dangerous thing you can do in real life is to not be committed to rotating the car at the lowest speeds of each corner. That is the place to rotate. Now, as soon as the coaching session ended, he did a few more laps and sent me this lap. 3.2 seconds faster than his first lap at the coaching session. What's funny is that it looks less perfect with mistakes, so it can still improve, but it is still 3 seconds faster, which is why when the lap looked very perfect, there's something off. If you're a racing driver, you probably don't know what is actually slowing you down. You're watching on boards, you're doing laps, you're trying everything. But without a clear system, you waste time just reinforcing your bad driving habits. The Motor Racing Checklist is my complete online course that gives you a step-by-step plan to fix your technique and gain real performance in the car. Our Almeida Racing Academy has over 11,000 drivers. Go through it just once, you will feel the difference. And if you don't improve, I'll give you your money back.